Dear friends, welcome to another interview of IQ Latino YouTube channel. My name is Carlos Roa and I am the editor-in-chief for IQ Latino. Our guest today is Mayor Robert Tuñón from Etna, Pennsylvania. Mayor Tuñón made history in 2024 by being the first Hispanic Latino mayor in Etna outside of Pittsburgh. This is part of the Pittsburgh metropolitan area. But also, Mayor Tuñón is the first Hispanic Latino mayor in Allegheny County and in Western Pennsylvania. So, Mayor Tuñón, thanks for accepting our invite and welcome to IQ Latino.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. We are eager to learn a lot about you and your history. My first question, of course, could you tell us a bit about your Hispanic heritage and what it means to you?
Absolutely. A central part of my identity. My family is from Panama. I'm Panamanian. I have a dual citizenship here in the U.S. and in Panama. And the story is that my father came to the U.S. when he was 12 years old. Um, he was raised in Ithaca, New York, a small town, but it's also where Ithaca College and Cornell University are located. So part of our journey was through an educational route. And now my family remains in Panama for the most part. My brother lives there. My tios, my tias, all of my family, most of my family lives in Panama.
Okay, and how your Hispanic roots combined with being born and raised here in the US shaped your way to see the world and the way you approach your work as a mayor?
That's really an excellent question, and um, it shapes my worldview in so many different ways. I mean, it starts with this idea of how hard it's deeply. Let me just say first, um, your first place is those that are closest to you, who my grandmother is, who my father is, and how hard they worked to make it here, to make it in a professional setting. That really was a huge part of my identity. So hard work. I think this is an extraordinarily challenging country to succeed in, and it's constantly competitive, and uh, that hard work matched with sort of a toughness and a drive and finding your passion. So all of these different aspects kind of started to shape my perspective. But specifically as it's related to Hispanic roots, it was as if I grew up in two worlds. One part, my immediate family, being raised, my father, my grandmother very close to me, but being born here in Pittsburgh, uh, we were completely isolated. The only Hispanic people in our whole town. So when we would have the opportunity to travel back to Panama, that was such a rich part of my childhood. And then ultimately, as an adult, I moved to Panama for several years and had the opportunity to live and work there. And that too was another period of transformation, really understanding the country, the city, and how it all operates. So there were different phases of understanding and how those shaped my unique perspective.
Okay, and in what ways being bicultural helps you to serve your community in a more effective way?
I do believe that when you're connected to more than one culture, it serves as a just a beginning point where not you know that not everybody is the same. And in that, knowing that, understanding that people have similar needs and also different needs, and that kind of uniqueness, it really starts with developing an empathy, and that I really do feel like that empathy and understanding has a lot to do with the way that I serve in public office.
And now speaking about Etna, how would you describe Etna today? What's your vision for the borough you are serving now during your time in office?
Sure. I just want to, say just a few things about it. It's a smaller community that is adjacent to the city of Pittsburgh, and there are things that make it very similar and different. So, for your listeners that are familiar with Pittsburgh, it is a city that had so much wealth of resources and wealth of industry and culture in all aspects, and then it had a really harsh collapse. Things, made it challenging, and then different ways the city bounced back and continues to do that. That's a continuous project. Etna is similar. We were founded as a mill town, a town that was built around several different industries, and around a similar time, those industries closed. So, what I think about both this region and our town, I always think of the word resilient. We've been through some tough things, but we ourselves are a model of how do you bounce back when things get low. And right now, we are at the beginning of that upward climb to where we want to be. It's different than the past. We don't hope to purely be an industrial kind of mill town anymore. We seek to provide a, a place where people can live, have families, and have all of the great things that help them succeed in their futures, whatever that wants to be. And so we're very focused on bouncing back in the ways that we want to live in our lives. And so a community that's very energized by the people that live there. They're helping to shape our future.
From your point of view, what are the most important duties and responsibilities of a mayor?
Okay, well, as I mentioned, we are a smaller town, so being the mayor of a small town is immensely different than being the mayor of the city. In my capacity, it's almost you would almost describe it as a volunteer role as opposed to the mayor of Pittsburgh, which is obviously a comprehensive job that has many staff and sort of full-time schedule. Much more robust. So the duties of mayor for a borough, you oversee and you are part of the police department. That is the central aspect. You're a liaison with the community at large, uh, and you have the ability to make it what you want it to be. And what I mean by that is because the role doesn't have a tremendous amount of requirements, you have the opportunity to have the impact that you see that you want to have, and support the projects that you want to, because it is not quote unquote a job.
You are trained as an architect. That's your formal education, which I didn't know, by the way. Uh, yeah, that was a surprise for me. How does that background influence your approach to leadership, planning, to problem solving in a local government?
This is something I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, because I think one of the things I want to leave you with is certainly how you covered it at the start. You mentioned that I'm the first Hispanic mayor in Western Pennsylvania, and I want to impress upon your listeners that I'm most certainly not the past. So I want to describe the kind of path and journey of becoming mayor that might help to inspire somebody else, because it was more um, eh, you can find your niche in community service that will lead to a public role in your local government. And so for me, when I arrived, my wife and I moved to Etna. We um, we started to wanted to connect to our neighbors more and more. And we started to go to different meetings where we would hear about community initiatives or economic development initiatives, local government things that were going on. And as people found out that I had a background in planning, there are so many needs in our small towns. I mean, there's just a constant request for volunteering. Whatever it is that you do, it could have an impact on where you live. And so, with a planning background, there was a project called the Eco District, a way of taking the place that you live and helping it to become more resilient, more sustainable, and more socially equitable. And so that background as a planner and as an architect, I was a natural fit to become one of the people that was helping to organize this project. And so I spent 3 years going to community meetings with my neighbors and helping to create even a bridge between the formal planners that were hired on the project and my neighbors. So I got to grow into a leadership role there. After that planning project, there were dozens and dozens of projects that people had put on their wish list. And we started to kind of pick one or two of them and started to make them happen. So along the way, we have been working on developing different parks, different programs. And the biggest thing that we've been doing is building a community library. That library is known as the Etna Center for Community. And that's now under construction. So through all of those service, different volunteering efforts, built strong relationships with the previous mayor, the former members of the council over those years, and when it came time to pass the torch, you might say, they were looking to those people that were most involved, that had the most passion about the town and the town's future, and who could help step up there. So just trying to describe that it was an evolution of a community service project based on my background that led me to now serving as mayor.
You already explained to us how important, how useful has been for you as a mayor being an architect. But I want to go back one more time again to your Latino roots. Would you say that is there a kind of a, let's say, Latino secret sauce, like a cultural touch or a cultural perspective that adds value to the way you lead as a mayor?
Uh, Absolutely. When you could, because we can define Hispanic and that secret sauce in so many ways. Uh, for me, it has always been this kind of fierce love, passion, and energy that, for me is most represented in members of my family. And the way that Latinos want to be in community, the way that Latinos want to share, they want to support each other. So those aspects absolutely come out in how I serve. Now, the one thing I did want to talk about is when I became mayor, um, it gave me a new window and access point that was never there. So upon becoming mayor, you publish your information about how people can reach you, right? And you publicize that. Hey, reach out to me if you have any issues. One of the things that started to happen was not only the Hispanic families that have moved into Etna, but also those of refugee families and other immigrant groups. They may often arrive with either a language gap, a resource gap, just questions. And so I will immediately be connected to our immigrant families, Hispanic or otherwise. And so I think it's part of that kind of upbringing, that part of my identity that has me prioritize that, has me say, I let me make sure that even though I have, this going on and this going on, the focus on people is that most important thing that I can do today. So that I do attribute to my Hispanic roots and namely the kind of people, my parents and my grandmother.
And going back again to your childhood in Pittsburgh, you mentioned that you were the only Latino family around. That has changed a lot lately. So I would like to know from your perspective how Pittsburgh Latino community has changed since you were a kid to the moment we're living now.
It's really a beautiful point, and I want to come back to this. But just last week or 2 weeks ago, Pittsburgh hosted the Pennsylvania Latino Convention, and that, as a moment, I think in history, is going to be a marker. Now, when I think back to the 80s and 90s, there was so little presence. It almost unimaginable that there were so few Latinos here in Pittsburgh. And you look today, what I would have done to grow up in a city that had the Latino Community Center, that when I went to school, that there were institutions like the Latin American Studies Association, that now as a professional, to be able to connect to the Hispanic Development Corporation or the number of organizations that are now in our city, it's really a beautiful time. It's really a beautiful time. And not only that, but the opportunity to eat the food, to listen to the music, to meet and actually, whether you're having lunch with your Colombian friends or, one of my favorite families right now, and that I coach their son in baseball. So our local Mexican family and I went to the quinceañera. These things, they weren't opportunities when I was growing up. So I'm seeing the city change. But when the PA Latino convention happened in Pittsburgh, it also showed how different East Pennsylvania is from Western Pennsylvania. The fullness and vibrancy of the Latino community in the eastern part of the state is showing us it's showing us the future. That is most certainly what will happen in Western Pennsylvania. And it is important that those of us that are here now are setting the path, that are setting the table for others to that will be here next.
And in what way do you think you and Latino community in Pittsburgh can serve that table to the people arriving here to help them to become involved in, in the economy, in education, in all that they need from the city, and then we can get back to the Latino newcomers. How is possible to support that?
Right. So I think that, kind of start right now, have on my mind both the business aspects and the public office aspects. So it's so important the work of different groups that are happening right now, like Latino Unidos, that is trying to set a stage where more Latinos are comfortable and considering running for office. Being in public roles is vitally important, and then doing those roles well. Now that's really where it counts, and that's personally where I feel so much obligation to the residents of Etna, but I also feel a lot of responsibility to make sure that I do it well, so that when the next mayor comes or runs, that there's already a legacy here of strong service. Now, when I think about the business aspects, we have to lay a strong foundation about how you can open a business here or where you can go to get information, how you can have mentors in the professional networks, how there are all types of different businesses. So no matter what what you did in either your home country or what you lived in another city, that we have opportunities, lots of opportunities here in the Pittsburgh region. Not only not only am I the first Hispanic mayor, but our city, in terms of architects, there's so few Latino architects and Latino engineers in our city. And in the world, there are so many, but just in our city, we just don't have that yet. So really, I envision and imagine a world where there's really robust Latino professionals and groups here that, no one's saying the first of this or for the first that anymore regarding Latinos.
We're already wrapping up this interview, and I would like a final comment from you. Maybe something that I didn't ask and you believe is important to add, or a reflection or a conclusion.
Well, I uh, look, there's no question that we are in the most difficult time. There's no question about that. And I, my heart is breaking for our families that are being torn apart, and my heart is breaking for children that are in fear. I grew up with a different type of feeling where wasn't able to embrace my identity or really fully lean into my culture, and that's always had a big impact on me. And so I just want to wish everyone that's out there the best, and to be and embrace your family, to find those moments of joy and to hold on to them, to find the aspects of hope that we can uh, that we can take with us each day that powers us. And most of all, the number one message is we must stick together. And with that level of Latinos in Pittsburgh or outside, wherever you are, we will be so much more powerful. We will be able to ride this wave that we're on and be ready for tomorrow. And I know that's going to be a better day.
Yes, let's say amen to that. And thank you for that final thought and for accepting our invitation to IQ Latino. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you here, and best of luck with your endeavors in Etna and in southwestern Pennsylvania.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure to be on this.
Thank you. And of course, we remind our followers to stay tuned, to stay in touch, to give us a like, to subscribe, and let's meet here again very soon with one more interview, a new interview for IQ Latino.